Good morning, students. Today in counseling psychology, we are going to discuss the new topic in credit 4, that is stage 2 skills. In previous classes, we have discussed pre-phase or pre-helping phase skills and stage 1 skills. Today, we are going to discuss stage 2 skills. So, what are the components of stage 2 skills? Advanced empathy, self-disclosure, immediate or immediacy, and confrontation. These are the components or the skills of stage 2. Let us discuss each of these skills. So the first one is advanced empathy. There are 4 skills comes under stage 2 skills. The first one is advanced empathy. So here we have discussed empathy in previous classes. What is advanced empathy? Means going more deeper into the client's feelings and senses, thoughts and behavior. Going more deeper than previous is called as advanced empathy. So advanced empathy can be defined as a deeper move in more intuitive awareness of another person's experience within the therapeutic relationship. Okay, so more intuitive. What is intuitive? Inner feelings. More intuitive awareness of another person's experience within the therapeutic relationship. So here the counselor and client both are in the therapeutic relationship. So here they are in stage 2 skills. They are going into the advanced empathy by understanding the more inner feelings and inner thoughts and behaviors of the client, and the client expressed or unexpressed difficulties need to be understood and appreciated by the counselor. Okay, so here see, as I told you, the client may not express each and everything, okay, whatever he has suffered or whatever feelings he is having in his heart and mind. So here the counselor's duty is to understand all those things. Though he is not expressing, he should think that something deeper is there in his feelings and thoughts. So he try to understand those things, and so in order to achieve those aims, so in order to achieve the at the end of the problem and conclusion, he has to understand all those things. And an advanced empathic response may be a tentative questioning response. I think what I am hearing is, while this indicates real understanding, it can also challenge as well. So here what he is doing, the counselor is asking questions. The tentative questions means the temporary questions in order to understand his feelings. Like, I think what I am hearing is, means when the client is revealing his feelings, again here are questions like, I think what I am hearing is, like that he is naming the emotions and he is saying something which gives deeper understanding of his emotions. And what the counselor reflects to the client is not her opinion of what is going on, but is securely based on what is flowing from the client at that time. Okay, so it is a sensing here, understanding. The counselor is understanding like what he want to express. Though he may not express properly in verbal and non-verbal communication, the counselor is understanding each and everything what is going on in that particular situation. That is advanced empathy. So it may enable the client to see themes, help them to give expression to their feelings or see the bigger picture. Okay, so here he is seeing everything whatever client is going to say, or he is unable to say also, he can understand or he can sense the feeling of client. So it encourages clarity. Some empathic responses may be echoes of client feelings. It's as if as the counselor checks out a feeling with the client. So the counselor here, he is able to sense what he is feeling, how he is feeling, or what are his inner and deeper aspects of those feelings and thoughts. Everything he can understand here, because of that is called as advanced empathy. More than empathy, here he is understanding the deeper aspects of the client's situation, behavior and thoughts is called as advanced empathy. So in advanced empathy, what the counselor is communicating to the client is the felt sense. So the felt sense, what is on the edge of the awareness. Okay, so the corner of the awareness, what he knows and what he want to know more about the client. is the edge of the awareness between the known and unknown. So here known is whatever he has expressed, unknown he want to know about more the deeper things which he did not expressed. So that is between the known and unknown, the known being what we recognize as our behaviors and feelings, the unknown contains deeper levels of feelings, okay, that we don't know and that maybe cannot be expressed by the client also. So underlying feelings are often not strong feelings like sensations, tightness means the closeness of the feelings, welling up or warmth, okay. To access the unknown, the underlying feelings, the counselor must focus on the edge of the client's awareness, okay. So see how much the client knows, because sometimes the client also don't know what he is feeling, okay, for what he is suffering, okay. That's the reason he is approaching the counselor. He is not understanding his problem and how to resolve his problem. So after sitting with the counselor, okay, after some sessions, after relieving some information, some things or some feelings he cannot reveal, because he don't know about those feelings, that he is having those feelings in his deeper aspects. So that he is not aware of those feelings. So here the counselor's duty is to make him aware through the advanced empathy. So the felt sense is the door to the unknown, okay. So whatever he has revealed, with the help of that, the counselor help the client to whatever feelings and thoughts he don't know, he make them to know about those feelings. So it may be accessed by echoing words or sensations the client is expressing. So whatever feelings he is expressing, he has to go through those feelings, and he has to see the echoing means what is the another meaning of this feeling, what may be the hidden feeling in this, like that he has to check and cross check the deeper aspects. And reflecting tightness, blackness, unlike empathy, where the client may immediately respond as the counselor indicates their understanding, here the client may hesitate as the echoing of the sensing of their feeling in just out their awareness. So here the client may be hesitate, okay, because he don't know what he's sensing or felt, okay. So slowly he is going through the unknown things, slowly he is going into the deeper aspects of his feelings, like what else are there apart from the known things. So here he may be hesitate. So counselor should be give a moral support and positive aspect to the client. So the real therapeutic value of advanced empathy is helping the client to become aware of his feelings, okay. So aware of feelings, not only what he knows, what he don't know also, about the feelings which are hidden inside in his deeper aspect, that also the counselor make him to know. That is the duty of the counselor. The challenging and new perspectives that emerge with the use of this skill depend on the formation of trusting relationship where the client feels cared and understand. So how you do this all activities, how you make them to know about the unknown things, because the trust you have developed in between the both counselor and client, because of that he get motivated, he get confident that he's really trying to helping me. So he think more about his deeper feelings and what are the inner core aspects of his sufferings, then he try to understand about those unknown things. So growth occurs in clients experiencing person-centered counseling. So client experience that I am the important here, okay, I am only the person who reveal all the things, then only I will get help from the counselor. So that is person-centered counseling. Then as the client moves towards a more autonomous existence, okay, so where he is feeling that more freedom and more autonomy he is getting, so that time he feel confident and he start understanding about his unknown things, and which is more in keeping with their true self. So changes happen in the way the client feels and experiences life, the trust and value themselves more, which changes the way they conduct relationship and the decisions they make. So here counselors relationship and trust and the value which is given by the counselor to client is very important in order to understand oneself, in order to lead the counseling process in a better way and good way. So this is called as advanced empathy, where the client should feel very much confident in order to understand the unknown feelings of his deeper aspects. Next, the second component of stage 2 skills are self disclosure. So what is self disclosure? The name itself indicate means exposing or exploring ourselves through communication or through informing and through sharing ourselves. Okay, so here self disclosure is a process of communication by which one person reveals information about himself or herself. Okay, self disclosure is a process of communication by which one person reveals information about himself or herself to another. Okay, that is self disclosure. Through self he is disclosing his information to other. So the information can be descriptive or evaluative. Okay, the information can be descriptive like in the form of description, or evaluative means are judging. Through judging also he can reveal the information, and can include thoughts, feelings, aspirations, goals, failures, successes, fears and dreams, as well as one's likes, dislikes and favorites. Okay, so these all things comes under the disclosure: his personal information, thoughts, feelings, aspirations, goals, maybe his failures. Okay, so these all are the part of life. So anything, any information of these things called as a self disclosure. Okay, his likes, dislikes, favorites, fears, dreams, these all comprises of this self disclosure. And self disclosure is seen as a useful strategy for sharing information with others. Okay, so how do you share the information? Through self disclosure only. This is the only way to share your information, to communicate about yourself with others, and is seen as a useful strategy for sharing information with others. By sharing information we become more intimate with other people, and our interpersonal relationships are strengthened. So we become more close. See how they become close friends when they know about each other, their weakness, their strengths, their likes, dislikes. So they become more close to each other. They become very intimate. They become close to each other because of this sharing of their information. So, and it also strengthens the interpersonal relationship, like the communication. This all brings closeness together. So that is, it also strengthens the interpersonal relationship, like communication, sharing, responsibility, bonding, these all things. So when you share information about yourself, you allow yourselves to be seen, and it's easier for people to relate to you as a real human being with faults and strengths, and with thoughts and emotions. And when people see you as human, then communication and relationships can easily improve. So what happened here, if one starts revealing his information, the another also start relating it. Like when you are sharing your strength and weakness, automatically I also think about my strength and weakness. Okay, what are my strength, what are my weakness? Okay, he like that thing but I like this thing. It is favorite for him, but this is favorite for me, like that. So after your information is shared, I start revealing my information, like I like this, I don't like that. Okay, my favorites are these things, my strength are these, my weakness are these, like that. So if the counselor discloses these things, okay, this information, so client also feel intimate, and he also start revealing his information to the counselor. The counselor shares personal feelings, experiences or reactions to the client, should include relevant context intended to help him. So he reveal all the relevant context, like about him, his family, his job, okay, everything which is like which he feels important to reveal. Okay, though that he feel to the client. And self disclosure is not simply providing information to another person. Instead, scholars define self-disclosure as sharing information with others that they would not normally know or discover. Okay, so if, for example, if you met with your new classmate, new friend or any person, until and unless he reveal the information, you don't know about those things. Okay, like that. So until and unless the scholars define self-disclosure as sharing information with others that they would not normally know or discover. So normally you cannot discover those things. because he shared, you know, otherwise you won't. So self disclosure involves risk and vulnerability on the part of the person sharing the information. So sometimes there is a risk also in the sharing information. You don't know how, in what sense they take that information. Okay, like that. Next, there is one technique to know about ourselves for self-disclosure, that is called the Johari window. Okay, what is this Johari window? A Johari window, a useful way of viewing self-disclosure. Okay, the Johari window is a way of showing how much information you know about yourself. Okay, to know about yourself, this Johari window is useful for you. So, and how much others know about you, not only how much you know of yourself, how much others know about you. Okay, the window contains 4 panes as shown below. The window contains 4 panes. Okay, like 4 themes or 4 parts. Let's see what are they. See, this is the Johari window. There are the 4 panes are there. First one is open pane, or also called as known self. The second one is hidden pane, or also called as hidden self. The third one is blind pane or blind self. Unknown. Fourth one is unknown pane or unknown self. Okay, so this is the Johari window. So here let us discuss what are these 4 panes. So the first pane is things we know about ourselves and others know about us, is called known self. Okay, what you know about yourself and what others know about yourself is called as known self. Or open pane, open area, open self, free area, free self, or the arena. These all are the synonyms for the open pane. Means what you know about yourself and what others know about yourself is comes under open pane. So such as hair color, occupation, and physical appearance. These known by yourself as well as others also known easily. Okay, because they are familiar with you. So this is called as open pane. Next, things we know. Second pane is called as hidden pane or hidden self. Things we know about ourselves that others do not know is called hidden self. Okay, the things we know about yourself not known by others is called as hidden self or hidden pane. So hidden area or avoided area, avoided self or facade, or such as dreams or ambitions. Your dreams and your ambitions. Okay, mostly you do not share these things, like you keep it as a secrets for you. Okay, so these comes under hidden pane or hidden self, only known by yourselves, not known by others, that is hidden pane. Then third pane is things other know about us that we do not know, is called blind self or blind pane. Blind area or blind spot also called, such as you are a poor leader but others think you exhibit strong leadership skills. Maybe it is opposite, you think as a you are a good leader but others think as a poor leader. Okay, so like that. So here you don't know about you but what others people know about you, that is called as blind pane, because it is blind for you, you don't know about it, is that is called blind self. Next, fourth one is unknown pane. Okay, things neither we nor others know about us is called unknown self. Okay, neither you or not the others know about yourself is called as unknown self. Unknown pane, unknown area, such as you may have hidden talents that you have not explored, means you have very good intellectual aptitude. Okay, hidden talents you have, you are able to do so many things, but you don't know about those abilities, and nor the others also know about those abilities, because not till now those abilities are not explored by others, not by yourself. So that is called as unknown pane. Okay, so it is not known by you and not known by others also. Okay, like this there are in self disclosure, the Johari window is providing 4 panes of the individual: open pane, hidden pane, blind pane, and unknown pane. Open pane is open for all. Others also know and you also know about yourself. Then hidden pain, others not know, others don't know but you know about those things, that is hidden pain, like your dreams and all. Then third one is blind pain. Okay, you don't know but others know. Okay, that comes under blind pain. Then unknown pain, nor you know, neither you know nor others know, that comes under unknown pain. So like this is a self disclosure window called as Johari window. So here there are types of self disclosure are there. What are there? There are 4 different types of self disclosure: deliberate, unavoidable, accidental, and client initiated. So first one is deliberate self disclosure. What is the meaning of deliberate? Deliberate is nothing but a systematically planned self disclosure. So refers to therapist's intentional verbal or non-verbal disclosure. Means here the counselor or the therapist is wantedly revealing the information, that is deliberate self disclosure. Means he systematically he arranged the information whatever he want to reveal, and he is revealing or sharing in front of the client. Okay, that is called deliberate self disclosure. Refers to therapist intentional verbal or non-verbal, through verbal and through non-verbal, like what we call gestures and body movements also he can reveal. Verbal non-verbal disclosure of personal information. It applies to verbal and also other deliberate actions, such as placing a certain family photo in the office. Like if you keep a family photo in the office, by seeing that, because you are also one of the member in that photo, so they, by seeing that, they can understand that you are this is your family. So this is deliberate self disclosure. Means you wantedly keep that photo in that office so that other people know about you and your family. Okay, so the deliberate disclosure means here the therapist intentionally reveal or disclose the information. So such as placing a family photo in the office decor, or a empathic gesture such as touch or a certain sound. Okay, like there are 2 types of deliberate self disclosures. See, the first one is self revealing, which is the disclosure of information by therapist about themselves. So here in this, he himself disclose the information, that is the self disclosure, self revealing. That is one type. The second type of self disclosure is has been called self involving, which involves therapist personal reactions to clients and to occurrences that take place during sessions. Means during the sessions, because of those actions performed by the counselor, the client understand about about himself, or know about himself. That is called as second type. Okay, what is that? Self involving. First one is self revealing, means here the counselor only reveals the information. Second one, self involving, where during the involving of the counseling process, he do some such actions. By seeing those actions, the client came to know about the counselor. That is called as self involving. So there are 2 types of self disclosure. Okay, so that is the type of deliberate disclosure. Second one is unavoidable self disclosure. So what is unavoidable self disclosure? Might include an extremely wide range of possibilities, such as therapist gender. See, the name itself indicates unavoidable self disclosure. Means here you cannot avoid this information to you cannot stop this information to known by others. Okay, that is called unavoidable self disclosure. So what things come under this, such as therapist gender, age, and physics. Okay, it also covers disclosure through place of practice, tone of voice, pregnancy, foreign or any accent. Okay, stuttering, visible tattoos, obesity, and many forms of disability such as paralysis, blindness, deafness, or an apparent limp. Okay, so therapists reveal themselves also by their manner of dress, hairstyle, use of makeup, jewelry, perfume, or aftershave, facial hair, wedding or engagement rings, or the wearing of a cross, okay, star of a David or any other symbol, therapist marital status, family details, and other personal information may be readily available to clients. So these things are no need to inform them, or if you do not have the intention to inform them also, they can understand these things by seeing you. Okay, these are unavoidable self disclosure. Automatically they come in front of the client, these all things, that is called as unavoidable self disclosure. Next, accidental self disclosure. What is accidental? Occurs when there are incidental encounters outside the office, spontaneous verbal or non-verbal reactions, or other planned and unplanned occurrences that happens to reveal therapist personal information to their client. Like any information, if the counselor did not reveal to the client, but some any accident or any phone call came in the office during the session, he suddenly receives and starts speaking with them. So some information which is not known by the client, he came to know at that time. So that is called accidental. Accidentally he came to know about that thing. That is called accidental self disclosure. Clients deliberate. Next one, actions are also potential. This is clients initiated. Client, he himself asked the counselor for that information. That is clients deliberate or client initiated. So actions are also potential sources that can reveal personal information about therapist. Clients can initiate inquiries about their therapist by conducting a simple web search. Okay, here client, see, before he approaching, he search about the counselor. Okay, like about himself, what he is, how many years of experience he is having. Okay, he is a good or bad, what is his history, what type of information such as family history, criminal record if he is having. Okay, family tree, voluntary activity. Okay, then community and recreational involvement. Okay, then political affiliations and much more. Therapists do not always have control over what is posted online about them, which means they may not have control or even knowledge of what clients may know about them. So therapist biographies or professional resumes may also reveal significant information about the therapist. So here client, he himself find out about the counselor. That is called client deliberate. Okay, so for example, whenever you are going to take any admission into any college, you research some about that college, like how are the facilities in that college. Okay, how is the faculty, library, lab resources, everything. So like that only here, before approaching the counselor, the client is doing some research to get some personal information that comes under client deliberate. Clear? So like that, there are 4 types of disclosures or self disclosure. First one is deliberate self disclosure. In that again we have discussed self revealing and self involving. Then second one, unavoidable self disclosure. Third one is accidental self disclosure. Fourth one is clients deliberate. So the next one we are moving, that is immediacy or confrontation. Okay, the next component in stage 2 skills are immediacy. So what is immediacy here? Okay, so see, immediacy refers to the counselor's reactions to the counselee during the counseling session. Immediacy refers to the counselor's reaction to the counselee during the counseling session. Means here their relationship, what type of relationship they are maintaining during the counseling process is called as immediacy. So it is the ability of the counselor to explore with the client what is happening in their relationship. Okay, and it is a direct mutual talk between the two of what happens between them. It is a kind of you me talk. Okay, and the client's interpersonal style can be to some extent seen in the relationship with the counselor, and if there is a group, her relationship to the group will resemble her reaction with other group also. So here, what is the meaning of immediacy? The relationship between counselor and client, how they are maintaining their relationship. Okay, how well they are knowing about each other, the awareness, the trust, the bonding between them. Okay, is all comes under immediacy. So let us discuss what are the different types of kinds of immediacy. So there are mainly 2 kinds of immediacy. In that the first one is overall relationship immediacy. What is the meaning of overall relationship? See here, the counselor discusses how the counselor and the counselee relate to each other, means what they are. Okay, they are family members, friends, okay, or no, in professional relationship they are having, like he's a counselor and client. Okay, so what kind of relationship they are maintaining, here they have to reveal, counselor has to reveal, that is overall relationship. They do not take up issue like any particular items that are spoken of, but only the relationship they have with each other. Okay, an exploration into such a relationship is called overall relationship. Okay, so this is the overall relationship. They have to declare their relationship, that what they are. Okay, that is here, because others don't know whether what they are client and counselee, only they too only know about themselves, but how they describe to others. So that's the reason the over relationship revealing the relationship is very important here. So immediacy, the counselee relating to the counselor as her father in an example. For example, maybe the counselor is her father only, like that the relationship you have to reveal here. Okay, maybe his friend, maybe his father. Okay, maybe he's a professional counselor, because if he is not any of his relative or family member, then he become as a professional counselor. So like that he has to give name to his to the relationship, or what they are and what type of relationship they are maintaining. Okay, that comes under overall relationship. Next, here and now immediacy. What is here and now immediacy? Here the consideration between the counselor and the counselee is what is going on between both of them right now. Here they do not worry about their general relationship at all, but only what is just happening between them. If a counselor were to deal with a certain irritation he has when the client is not distinct and clear in her expression, it is here and now immediacy. What is here and now immediacy means? Now, so after giving the name to the relationship, like who they are, okay, then they have to decide that what is going on, okay, on what thing they are working, what problem they are working. Okay, that relationship they have to reveal. Okay, here and now immediacy means what's going on now in between them, on what thing or what concept, what problem they are working, what type of data or information they are revealing, that should be revealed. That is called as here and now immediacy. So see, immediacy is nothing but the relationship between client and counselee. There are two types of kinds of relationship: overall relationship and here and now immediacy. So next one, components of immediacy. What are the things comes under immediacy? The first one is awareness. So unless you are aware of what is happening between you and the client, you cannot be immediate. So because unless and until you don't know what you people are, right, what is your relationship is, okay, so you cannot explain to others like what type of relationship it is or what's going on in this relationship. So through much non-verbal languages, the client and you are communicating, and you should be able to pick it up for consideration, and that requires a certain amount of awareness. And when this lack of awareness occur, when you people are not communicating properly, like most of the time you people are using non-verbal language, gestures and body language to communicate each other, then the immediacy cannot form properly in between the client and counselee. So for proper formation of immediacy, for proper formation of relationship between two, there should be a proper awareness of each other. Next, communication. Awareness alone is useless unless you communicate the awareness to the client. Okay, only knowing is not enough, you have to communicate after knowing each other. So for immediacy, there should be a dialogue between you and the client. So dialogue means conversation, so there should be a dialogue between you and the client. And if you are only aware of what is happening to dialogue will take place, okay, so you need to communicate here, make use of all the skills required to be empathic in communicating to the client. So here you have to communicate with the client in order to maintain good relationship, and in order to improve the bond of relationship leads towards the formation of trust. Next, assertiveness. What is assertiveness? So here in immediacy, assertiveness is nothing but Particular skills require assertiveness to dialogue with the client at times on unpleasant matters. Assertiveness is nothing but stating your needs, desires, and your opinions and emotions without any hesitation, or in a smooth and in a good atmosphere you are revealing the information. Assertive nothing but in a sentence, okay, like what you need, what you want, what are your desires, everything you are revealing to the client, or client revealing to the counselee, okay, that comes under assertiveness. Okay, so since immediacy calls for courage because of the delicate situation and the fear of offending the client, so this particular skill requires assertiveness. Means here you have to be bold and straight enough to reveal your needs, aspirations, okay, your desires, what you want to convey, that should be there here. Assertiveness should be there both for the client as well as counselor. So in this manner we can develop immediacy. Immediacy means relationship between them. So awareness, communication, and assertiveness should be there in the immediacy. Next, purpose of immediacy. What is the purpose? Why we conduct this immediacy? Means to be immediate with counselor. Okay, so it helps both the counselor and counselee towards effective working together at the counseling session. So what is the purpose of this immediacy? Is working effectively in the counseling session, they need this immediacy. So since their relationship is being taken care by the use of immediacy, the counseling can be effective without major hurdles. Okay, so the counseling process can become effective because without any hurdles, because see, in the relationship they form the trust each others. So what happened then? No problem will arise in between them. So the client learns to rectify the deficit in her relationship with the counselor and the way she relates to him. So like that they rectify each other, they go further in the counseling process. Next, to be immediate with others. Okay, what is the purpose? Not only maintaining the relationship each other, to know about each other and to understand the problem and in order to lead towards the solution. Next, to be immediate with others. What is the meaning of immediate with others? Dealing with the relationship helps the client to review her relationship with others outside the counseling session. Means outside the people ask, okay, where you are going, whom you are approaching, who is he. So if you have a proper relationship with your counselor in a professional manner, you can immediate with others also. Means you can show your relationship to others, like what type of bonding you people are having between you. Okay, so here if the counselee works out her relationship problem with the counselor, her relationship with others get automatically rectified. So thus immediacy helps the client to set right her relationship with the counselor for efficient working together, and secondly it helps her to be efficiently immediate with others also. So this immediacy useful for the client to maintain good relationship and work effectively in the counseling process, and also immediate with others also let know other to others about their relationship. So it is useful for him as well as others. That is the reason that called as immediacy. Means relationship between the counselor and client, what type of relationship they are having, okay, for what are the components of relationship and what is the purpose of relationship. Nothing but immediacy or immediate. Next one, the last component of the last skill of stage 2 skills are confrontation. What is the meaning of confrontation? Confrontation, generally speaking, the term confrontation means challenging another person over a discrepancy or disagreement. Okay, so however, confrontation as a counseling skill is an attempt by the counselor to gently bring about awareness in the client of something that they may have overlooked or avoided. So confrontation is like face to face challenge. If any, for example, if the client doesn't know about his weakness or any mistake or any feeling, okay, which is not known by the client, so that immediately the counselor confront that, like, no, this is not right, this is wrong, okay, so this you don't know about yourself, but your words or your behavior is showing this or revealing this. So that is which may be overlooked by or avoided by the client, that is confronted by the counselor. So there are 3 steps in confrontation in counseling. Okay, so the first step involves the identification of mixed or incongruent messages. Okay, what are incongruent messages? Expressed through the client's words or non-verbals. Okay, the messages which are mixed by words and non-verbals. The second step requires the counselor to bring about awareness of these congruity. So first of all, the counselor has to identify his congruity, means the mix of words and non-verbs. Then he has to aware that through confrontation he has to aware to the client about this incongruity. Then and assist the client to work through these. Then third one, he has to help to know about him about these things. So finally, step 3 involves evaluating the effectiveness of the intervention evidenced by the client's change and growth. So after identifying, after confrontation, after the third step, the counselor has to evaluate whether the growth or whether the change has been take place in the client's behavior or performance or not. So during the counseling process, there are 4 discrepancies which the client could display. Discrepancies means like shortcomings, or if he is lacking anything is called as discrepancy. So the discrepancy can be between, see, there are 4 types of discrepancies in the client. They may be thoughts and feelings, okay, thoughts and actions, feelings and actions, or a combination of thoughts, feelings and actions. Okay, maybe he do not have any awareness in between thing, and maybe he's confusing in this thing. Because of that, the problem is creating that is making aware by the counselor. So what are those discrepancies by the client are thoughts and feelings, thoughts and actions, feelings and actions, or a combination of thoughts, feelings and actions. So these are the shortcomings in the client. So these are creating awareness through the counselor to client. So having identified a discrepancy, the counselor highlights, the counselor says that you have thought discrepancy, your thoughts are not proper, your feelings are not proper, your actions are not good, like that. So this is to client using a confrontation statements. So purpose of confrontation, why we use confrontation? Confrontation is a skill that can assist clients to increase their self-awareness. Okay, to know, see, they don't know about this, but the counselor has identified this discrepancy and make the client to aware about this thing. So for awareness, they use the confrontation. It can be used to highlight discrepancy that clients have previously been unaware of. Maybe client is unaware, so he is making him aware. So when it is used, confrontation is often used when the counselor observes mixed messages or incongruity. Means because he don't know those feeling or those thing, because of that thing he is doing mistakes, or he is mixing his feelings, emotions and thoughts. That time the counselor has to identify and he has to inform him. Okay, in the clients, so there is a counselor observes mixed messages, incongruities, okay, in the client's words, behaviors, feelings or thoughts. Confrontation should only be used after rapport has been developed between client and counselor. So after a good rapport established between the client and counselor, then only they have to use this confrontation. So there are some examples in confrontation. You say you would like to do further study. Okay, when clients say during the sessions, the client has revealed the information that he want to do further study, but you haven't contacted the training institution. Okay, this is the statement confrontation given by the counselor. What he is saying to the client, you say you would like to do further study, but you haven't contacted the training institution. One more, your words say you would like to spend more time with your sister. Okay, your words say you would like to spend more time with your sister, but your actions say that it's not a priority for you. So like that, whenever such situation arises, the counselor confront the client. Okay, so this is about the confrontation, means challenging their actions, thoughts or words when they are not appropriate to the client. So that time it is called as confrontation. Okay, so this is about the stage 2 skills. Okay, so let us revise what we have discussed. We have discussed about advanced empathy, self disclosure, immediate or immediacy, then confrontation. These four components or skills comes under stage 2 skills. Okay, clear? Thank you.